Citrix server, whatever it is, that user is going to have to basically set everything back up in the environment. So a lot of companies ask us, when do we put AppSense in that environment? So should we actually take this and put it in before we bring Citrix in? Should we take it in before we deliver the published applications? Or should we do this basically, maybe when we're on the desktop? The answer is at any time. If you bring AppSense into your environment in the very beginning, such as on their desktop and physical desktop, we can check this button that says Migrate Existing Profiles. And what that'll do is that'll record their local roaming profile that's on their desktop or their local profile, and basically the changes in the settings that they do within the application itself. And we'll basically learn that user within the environment, and we're not going to sit there and manipulate anything. We're just recording what they're doing. And then when you decide that you want to migrate to the Windows 7, all you have to do is make sure the OS is available and the application is available. We'll handle the user virtualization, which is replacing all profiles. So the user will have the same consistent look and feel however they're launching the application or however they're logging on to their OS in that environment. So a lot of nice, easy configurations. And like I said earlier, a lot of companies say, well, Dan, we're not migrating to Windows 7. All right, that's fine. At some point in time, you will be, as well as I'm sure you're having issues with your profiles within your environment right now. Now, in healthcare, I noticed that a lot of times you need to make sure that you're compliant, dealing with JCO and maybe dealing with the HIPAA regulations that are out there. Those triggers that I mentioned earlier will help you in that environment to make sure that the doctor, the clinician, somebody maybe in the cafeteria or somebody in biomed, whatever, only has access to exactly what they need to have access to make sure that patient information doesn't leak out by accident, or to make sure they're not accessing an application in a certain area that they shouldn't, such as maybe doctors that are in a patient room. And they have to go in and out of that patient room to do certain things. They're leaving the, log on. They're logged on to the desktop that's in the patient room, and then they walk out, and then that's vulnerable to the patient that's in there to actually get on the computer and view certain things. We can set up based off of triggers and set up based off of lockdown and capabilities in the environment to prevent that from happening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've showed you within this environment a lot of capabilities within Environment Manager, which is our user virtualization, basically flagship product that basically solves those issues and eliminates the profiles within the environment. Something else I wanted to show you today is one of the features that we have within our solution is Application Manager, and this deals with the security. So I'm going to kind of switch back over into another environment here. I'm going to make this full screen so everybody can see it. But what I have typically is just a simple desktop, and right now I don't have AppSense turned on. And this deals with security in the environment, especially within HIPAA-regulated environments or security or ITILs or SOX compliances. How do you make sure that the user only access exactly what they need? Now, I know everybody that's on the call today has maybe had a user within their environment that needs to have local admin rights. Maybe it's because of a certain application that requires access to the registry or areas to where elevated rights has to happen. I know when I worked at healthcare organizations on Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I wanted to be with my family that night, I'd get a call from a doctor and say, Dan, I can't access this one file or I can't access this one part within an application. Well, I would log in with domain admin rights and all the bells and whistles, and it worked just fine for me. So I would know at 4 o'clock I could spend the next 3 and 4 hours going through Active Directory to trying to find out what group they needed access to. When the funny part is the day before they were working just fine, so something had to change somewhere. Or I could give them local admin rights to the box and the problem was fixed, and I would just do that. And of course I always promised myself I would come back in on Monday or Saturday, whenever it was, and fix the problem. Well, in all the years that I've been in healthcare, I actually never went back and gave them the rights that they really should have. I just left them as local admin rights. I know a lot of you that are on the call right now are probably chuckling because every time I've ever been in a room with people and I can see your faces, everybody smiles and said, you know what, I've done the same thing. Now, with AppSense, we do something a little bit differently. This user that's logged in has no rights whatsoever. If I try to change the clock, it gives me a message. And again, this is just Windows. You don't have permission because the user that's on this box, and I have a standalone box right now, but I'm going to show you in here in the environment that they are a standard user. So I'm logged in as Mandy right now, and Mandy is a member of users, no rights whatsoever. Now, if I come over here and maybe go to Control Panel, let's say I'm a laptop user and I'm traveling and I need to change the wireless connection. If I try to access a wireless network, I don't have the rights to. I can come down here and click on, the icon, come into Properties, and let's see, some of the controls and properties you select are disabled because I don't have the rights. How do I fix that? Well, let's say the firewall, and I'm just going to show a whole bunch of examples I don't have access to. I can't turn the firewall on and off. I can't remove programs. If I come in here, you may not want to give users access to this, or you may have to give users access based on their job roles. Well, we developed Application Manager, and within that piece, one of the incredible features that is available is called User Rights Management. We call it URM. That gives that user the ability to elevate its rights based on the application it needs, not based on the entire security function that the user needs access to. So I'm going to log in here and launch the console just so you can see what I'm doing, just show you how easy it is to set this up. Now, a lot of companies, you have a desktop tech that'll come down to the local PC and they'll go and elevate the user's rights, and they'll do what's called a run as. When they do a run as, that pretty much elevates the user to do whatever they want on the box. It may fix the problem to start off with, but then that user then has access to whatever that run as person had, and that then allows the user basically to access network drives that they shouldn't, files and folders, or launch a program that they didn't have access before. Imagine going to the web and them downloading things that they shouldn't have downloaded before. So we have what's called User Rights Management, and I kind of already set up, so I'll walk through it very briefly, but I'm going to open up the configuration that I have on the box, and I'm going to come down here, and I can add it based off of a user group. I can do it based on a user itself, or even a device or a location. So I'm going to click on Mandy, and I'm going to come down here, and under Components, I'm just going to add something really simple, a Control Panel applet. I'm going to say I'm going to allow Mandy to mess with add-remove programs. I'm going to allow Mandy maybe to even install a printer. That's what I didn't mention. If a user needed to install a printer, they have to have elevated rights. So I'm going to then allow her to access that. I'm also going to come down under the firewall settings, set that up. And the one that was so simple was the date and time. I never understood why you have to be a certain elevated right to mess with the date and time. This should just be standard. So a lot of things you can choose in here. I could also allow Mandy to install something that before she wasn't allowed to. If she wasn't allowed to install, change the date and time, I know she wasn't allowed to install a program that I had on the desktop. Some of you may have saw it. It's LimeWire. So we'll just type in limewire.exe. So I'm going to allow Mandy to install LimeWire because maybe it's needed for a job function. Not realistic, but I don't have all the medical access to those applications that y'all have in your hospitals and businesses. So it's my little example that I have today. So I made all these rights here, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to save this configuration live on this computer, and it applies immediately. Now I'm doing it on a standalone box. Keep in mind, you can do this out to 20,000 desktops in a matter of a minute. You could do it to a physical desktop, virtual desktop. It doesn't matter where. Server, 32-bit, 64-bit in the environment. Again, it doesn't matter. Just doing it on standalone to kind of get y'all to understand what we're doing here. I'm going to log back in as Mandy. And the other nice thing about it, if you're in your production environment, you don't actually have the user has to log off and log back on. I could have done that from a remote management server, and the user could have continued working without having to log off. If I come down here and click on the time, when time launches, now I have access to come into the time program. I also can come on Start. Let's see, Control Panel, Firewall Settings. I click on the Firewall Settings. Now I have access to change the firewall on and off. So a lot of different things you can do in the environment, and I think I allowed her to have access. I sure did. Now she can remove a program as needed. Now, I did put a stop on LimeWire because I don't want LimeWire installing in my demo, but if I go to execute it, you're going to see it's actually just going to click off, but it allows me to install it without an issue. Again, we're elevating the user rights based on the functionality that they need, not as a whole security group with an AD. So a lot of companies ask us, if I did this, pretty much that would eliminate me having to give laptop users local admin rights to the box. The answer is yes, 100%. We actually have a couple companies that are out there that are looking at giving domain administrators less rights so they can only do the job function that they need, not being able to elevate things accidentally or access or change things. Maybe they're in their server room, whatever. Only give them the functionality that they need to do their job. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I've shown you, a solution that AppSense delivers, and that is called basically user virtualization within the environment. It is also called the ability to be able to elevate somebody's